So the next challenge is going to be the boss fight. So it's a very, very big deal, this challenge, because it's a complete illustration. So this brief that I'm about to read for you might get changed, but it's pretty much going to stay like this. So everyone, please pay attention. Please design your boss fight illustration based on the description provided above, which you'll see later. You may use references. You may reference the inspirational images folder attached to this resource pack, which is a bunch of screenshots from some of the best action scenes that I think are available out there. Some stuff that yielded in a Google result that I thought were perfect for this challenge. And some game boss fight kind of splashes. So this is just some of the stuff that I've picked out. And you're going to be referencing a lot of these. So really amazing inspirational pieces. Lots of Dutch angles, or partial Dutch angles, just twisted. But I'm looking for stuff just like this in this resource pack, and a bunch of other photos will be available in the inspirational images folder. But you may not copy any of the characters in it. So in the images folder just now, you cannot copy the monsters in there or the characters. Those are someone else's IP, intellectual property. What you can do is shamelessly copy the cinematic angles. You can copy the framing. You can copy the gestures. You can borrow from the camera angles and gestures seen in the inspirational images folder. Those things you can copy. And a minimum of 2 characters must be visible in a wide-angle canvas shot at 1920 by 1080 or resolution or a higher factor of that ratio. Please remember that all of our challenges are accumulated from past month challenges and lessons. Our gestures and character design lesson combines with our portraiture and photo studies into this month's challenge. So remember that you're supposed to be thinking about how to bring in past challenges and the lessons learned there to apply to this one. This one, I believe, if I feel like it's you know, enough people have come out to join, I will be hosting this after the challenge as a contest, just like we did this one. So our last challenge winner was Finnegan, Tyler Finnegan, if I'm not mistaken. I'm so sorry if I don't remember. But he designed that beautiful Yaretsi design, that character design. And what he won was a lot of art supplies, a copy of Portrait Studio, brushes, and it's just really, and lessons with me whenever he wants to use them. You know, portfolio reviews. So what happens is that after this is all said and done, everyone hands in their copies. I will put up a poll on the community. So to find the community, go to the Google Plus icon, and I will put up the poll there. I will also, don't fret, I will put up the resource pack and pin it to the top of the community up here. The Portrait Studio sale is officially over. I did leave it for like the 1st and stuff, but it's done. Sorry, the 1st here. But it's absolutely done. The price is now gone up. Portrait Studio update hopefully will be done by the end of this week or mid-next. I hope you guys enjoy what's coming up with Portrait Studio. I want to show you guys a quick little screenshot of what it looks like right now, which is crazy. It just looks mad. This is one screenshot from the quality we're looking at now. You're going to have subsurface scattering. You're going to have a lot of detailing. This is maxed out graphics, of course. This is Portrait Studio on its highest performance, or best look, I guess. Not computer performance, but Portrait Studio performance. So this is one screenshot of what's coming up, along with a posable hand model, which is done and done, and ready to be published on Portrait Studio. So you'll have not only a customizable figure mannequin, but you'll have a fully posable hand, and a lot of new amazing optimized UI efficiency. Settings are a lot more optimized, as well as just the general programming, which is all Abu's department. Those are all he's just been working tirelessly. Is that what the term is? Just no breaks. He's just been on it 24/7, making sure that Portrait Studio can give you as much quality on the lowest graphic settings. So for those who can barely open Portrait Studio, hopefully you'll get more quality this time around for the update. And then just imagine these settings on everything. We're going to have a higher like count of characters, and in this one you'll be able to bring in more than one character in one scene. You can't just yet bring in your own models. That's not available yet. We're still thinking about that. It's pretty straightforward, but the problem with that is that everyone comes in with their own type of poly count, and Portrait Studio hasn't been equipped with decreasing the quality or count of polys or size of models you bring in on your own that you've created, or other models that you bring into Portrait Studio, so they can take advantage of it as singly as a lighting engine. That's not how it works here. Portrait Studio is only working with the models in it, but there is a massive amount of variety in there, and soon you'll be able to bring in more than one image in more than one model into one image, into one room or scene. So the sale is done. I'm sorry that it's done. I held it for 2 weeks. Everyone who took advantage of it, thank you. But for those who are interested in buying it, who don't have it yet, I will host another sale, hopefully in the fall, maybe sometime in August, as soon as I can. After this overhaul update, we're going to be looking at introducing an Android version that you guys can use on your phones or tablets, and then after that, maybe, because I have effectively boycotted Apple, we will try to think about an Apple release. However, for those who are interested and who have a powerful Apple computer, you can use a program like Wine that can run Windows, like Windows software. So if you're interested in that, you can look that up on your own. I'm not going to link it. I'm not going to teach you how to do it, but I have heard through the grapevine, through the grapevine, of a program that can unwind and run all of your Windows software that you can't run on Apple. A lot of people are saying that it works just fine on their computers. I already sent out the assignments for this month. It's going to be an intensive portraiture assignment. I will post on Facebook all of the homework from Patreon so you guys can see what everyone's working on. And I think that's it for all of the updates and stuff. I hope I'm not forgetting anything. Whatever, let's move on to today's critique. So I have a little bit of everything in here. Actually, one of these is the reference, and one of these is just a... Okay, so if I'm wincing and stuff like that, that's just, I broke my neck, and I have just, I'm like, I don't know, it hurts. Okay, let's get started. So what we have here is a large head, improper use of the light environment, and then some design choices that I would have, rethunk. So I would have rethought some of this color use here. You're really breaking, I don't know what you're doing with your colors. I'm going to talk about design in respect to design, not so much into form and lighting. Okay, so let's start with this little elf queen. So the head is very, very large. You're using almost like toddler proportions. So remember, the body grows around the head. The head grows, but the body grows around the head. So children's proportions are always a little bit, the body's smaller than the head. The head is like a big bobbly thing. And this is why anime borrows from these features, because usually the characters in anime have massive heads compared to their bodies. And that's why you get like things like chibis, or that's why Pokemon are designed with massive heads, small bodies. Puppies, animals, it's more like a universal proportion that signals aw. And whenever you use that, you're kind of giving off the wrong feeling if with that bobbly head figure you're adding developed breasts. That's uncanny valley. You never want to do that. So I'm just trying to read some comments, sorry. So we're gonna shrink this so that her body grew around her head. She's way past puberty, and that explains why her chest is developed. So that's a big giveaway for females. I know everyone wants to draw boobs. Boobs are fun to draw. They're the source of all life. When we were children, we all celebrate boobies, but please remember that you have to match, especially for females. You can get away with it for a male. You'll just have an effeminate male, but for females, you do signal developed body by signaling the growth of the breasts. So, growth of the breasts. Okay. So I'm just going to correct that and show you the before and after. In fact, I won't show you the before and after till I'm 100% done. That way you get to really see the mistake you made. Even if she's a little nymph, even if she's supposed to be a kid, the kind of head structure you have here, the expression, the length of her body, the length of her arm. If you intended toddler, it did not work. And so I'm going to the most obvious route, which is the grown woman. All right, and then we go into liquefy, and we try to catch up the shoulders as well. So with the I know she has like this really elegant ballet, almost dancer-esque kind of gesture to her, kind of leaning her head very flirtatiously. You know, someone just caught her randomly and took a photo of her, and they saw the legendary elf or something like that. It's just a small little shot of her in her natural habitat. But you still have to keep the features intact, because right now what you did with the shoulders is, even though you're trying to go for that flirtatious pinup, you made the shoulders look really, really hunched. And me like doing that exact gesture with my neck and my shoulder right now, it's just really, really irritating me, because I just want to correct my own neck by correcting the painting. Okay, so you've kind of forced the gesture of the body, because you're not really showing the gesture. I know she's leaning her body, kind of twisting it, but you didn't accomplish that just enough, because you made it too symmetrical. The point of a body in kind of that twisty motion is that it's become asymmetrical. So parts are seen on the other side. We see the rib cage here, but we don't see it on the other side. So we see that little rib indentation here. We also see the stomach here, but it's kind of like in 3/4 view. That's why you can't have that symmetry. And if you wanted her to be a little bit more flirtatious, you can raise this shoulder. Okay. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to shrink the head one more time, because it's still reading as way too big. And I'm going to give her a longer neck, and a longer neck will add to that femininity, that twisty beauty. All right, so there's quite a bit of a problem here with the eyes. Can anyone tell me what it is? And it's pertaining to color. Can anyone explain what the issue is? Can anyone see it? Whoever sees it gets a sticker. Okay, so flipping the canvas, I am just going to try to continue this 3/4 view and complete the shape of the, even if the breasts aren't 100% developed, they'll still there. And then we have collarbone. Light source, bug's eye view. Hotter is higher. Too much of the high value, they're yellow. Which means, what's the wash color? Are they really yellow? Oh man, I want a sticker. The color is too even. No. You can still complement yellow with blue, but is this really yellow? They don't match the light environment. Good job, Interstellar Ginger. How? I think the eyes look nice, but they don't match the blue light. They read as a villain, or they're a small light source and aren't treated like that. The eyes are glowy. They aren't supposed to act like a mini light source. Wash color is green, no? The wash color is not green. It's more of like a purpley blue. They would be white. Too warm in a cool environment. There we go. He speaks out of the mouth of babes. I don't even know how that term goes. I don't even know if, I mean, I'm sure you're a babe. So Katie Ritchie, here's a sticker. There, you got a love sticker. So yes, it's too orange. It's not matching the light environment. What came first? So the light environment came first, and then she came in here with her glowy eyes. And though it might look partially right to you, it still looks off. So what we gotta do is filter that green through the filter. Sorry, I gave it away. Filter that orange through the blue, and what happens is that orange cancels out the blue cancels out the orange, and we're left with the other half of that orange, even if she did have orange, let's say she did have orange, but the environment came first and what was left was the yellow. So it would have more of a green-like color to it. And that would, and someone mentioned white, and that's exactly what we're looking at. We're looking at something a little bit more white, and you don't need much to make it work. I mean, if you wanted to make that value push beneath into her beneath her skin like it's glowing inside out, you can try that. But I'm going to just extend this value out. I'm also going to continue what you were doing here, which is using the purple or that pinkish thing to work as like the blush of the eye. So I'm going to bring in some of that pink around the eye. It can be a light source, that's no problem. The eyes can be a light source, but they have to match the light environment. So when we think about that blue wash, that purpley blue wash working everywhere, again, what are we doing? And I'm just using the skin tone here as a reflection of the light environment. We also have to match everything else back to that. So the blacks of the background need to be turned into more of a blue. And what I'm doing is I'm using this blue to get rid of the green and the turquoise of her hands. And you're kind of throwing off the painting with these glowy bits in her hands. I feel like you could have done so much more with a nice silhouetted hand gesture that was directly in front of the light. That way the lights are more dim and you have more of a complete hand gesture. So something that looks a bit more like this. Yes, Istebrak is drawing some hands. And then we have like that. Something like directly in front of the light source with this kind of blue color. And then that way you have her more doing her hand gesture. And, oh shit. And then the light is dim, and then we get more gesture out of the hands. So something a bit more like that is, you know, maybe she's like the goddess of the eclipse, or I don't know what, God. But, you know, it's going to work because what's going to happen is that we have, I think the thumb is a bit too big, but it's okay. We're going to have a dimmed light that still works to complete the story that she has glowy hand powers, but they're not going to throw off the composition, so it all goes back up to her. As for the composition, I really think that the composition is off. I'm not sure why we would have so much space down here. If nothing is happening, if we don't get legs down here, we don't need all that down there. A vertical crop, as long as it's vertical, there's really no rule on how long it should be. This is just fine like this. I would also reposition her to be a little bit more toward this kind of position, a little bit lower and off center. This feels like more of a complete position. All right, so this feels a little more off center than that. Might work. So before she was a little bit off, even if she was just, as long as she's lower. The problem was she was too high up and close to the corner. As long as she's lower a bit and the crop is complete. And so what happens here is that you've got purple, purple, and then you've got this blue, but this blue isn't really throwing off its color on everything around it. So I'm just going to go ahead and get that color everywhere. And then choose the non-colored cloud color. Gosh, and just use that on whatever isn't being touched by this little bit of blue. That blue is also on her body. And so what you need to do now is you need to complete these pinks, because this pink, you're really describing a big, you know, factor in her anatomy is having lots of pink in it. This pink over here, this pink around her eyes. I'm going to add a little bit more around her eyes. And I also think you should get rid of the eyebrows. The fact that she has smoke hair means that she doesn't really get eyebrows. So that's kind of a, it's just like kind of like a design like plot hole. So getting rid of the eyebrows will kind of complete the type of texture she is as a creature of magic. And that might help you create that more mysterious, almost dangerous character type. Okay. And then getting rid of some of those blacks to make her more smoke-like. So she's not dense, she's not opaque. She has more of a smoke to her than a black. So I'm just using that where I can. And then I'm just going to smudge around her body. Again, to complete the texture. As for the time of day, I think you should think about something else up here. If the clouds finish off, there might be something. I really think you should have just gone for like a completely black top corner, because that would have kind of given us more of a chance to show off her silhouette and her gesture. I think you shouldn't have tried a masterpiece like this. I think you should have tried something a little bit more complete. Try to complete the gesture, study the gesture, find references to dress the gesture with real anatomy. I mean, you don't have some of the like torso anatomy here, which isn't that hard to apply. Just a little bit here and there, and you have more of a complete depiction of this area. She's a humanoid. Something like that would have been all we needed. So a study would have allowed you to create some of that without feeling like you're about to destroy your painting. Because that's why students don't go for the stomach area. They don't feel like they're finding a reference. They don't want to ruin their painting. They don't feel like something is going to feel like anything is just about to come and destroy the painting, and it's just going to ruin everything. It's actually the opposite of that. A reference would actually really, really help this painting along. This little bit of armpit is disproportionate. And then you got to really ask the question, where's the light source coming from? So if she's like kind of just glowing in this non-really light sourcey environment, she's just glowing inside out, that's fine. But you have to have some kind of indication of the general route of the light. So I think that's a nice little touch there to complete the light environment, and I'm just going to move along the clouds. That lasso was a bit intense. And that darkened the piece just enough. And then I'm also going to darken the far part of the painting with a darkened layer. Something a bit more towards blue, to show that she's kind of leaning towards the darker part of the atmosphere. And then I'm going to relieve the areas that are glowing. And that'll kind of complete the nighttime effect here. So you got to bring in some more texture for the clouds up here. This whole area was just pretty much, nothing was really going on, and it was taking up a massive amount of space beside her head. So you need a little bit more in that area. So this is if I were to encourage you to complete the masterpiece, which I don't. I encourage you to recreate the same body type, same gesture, and same light environment, and try to find more anatomy along the body, more real cast shadows and all that business. So before, massive head, very haunched, almost bobblehead proportions. And after, before, after. Let me try to align her with where yours was. Before, after. Okay, so you see what happened when with the orange? The orange just did not fit there. There's just, it can't, unless it was actual flames. So her eyes are still yellow. Trust me, they can read as yellow. You can get away with the head size right now as being slightly too large. I wouldn't worry about the head size right now, because where it is, at least the shoulders are wider right now than the head, but the head is still a little bit big. It was massive before. We can keep adjusting, and we're still adjusting. Is the head slightly, still slightly too large? I would say it is slightly still, but just so we can have a more, let me see, closer to the design of the artist and intent of the artist. But if they did mean for something a little bit more nymph-like. But this would typically be where I would put the head if I were drawing a nymph-like character. The head was a completely different entity. Okay, and to see what I mean about the orbs, the glowing blue orbs, they're just in the way. They're not really allowing the painting to finish. And the composition was off. You had nothing going on in the lower third of the painting, so you needed a definite crop. Before, after. All right. So excellent work. Good job on attempting the colors. Colors are very tricky, but I think where we have them right now, they're pretty good. And it wasn't that much of a jump away from what you did. Another problem with head size. I'm not sure what it is. Well, last time we looked at very small heads. This time we're looking at large heads. If you guys don't work on your figure studies, if you don't work on gestures, you will never build a natural instinct to develop, and never develop a natural instinct to detect when the head size is just way off. So this head size is actually fine. It's just the one shoulder is lagging a little bit. How the heck am I supposed to go to the gym with my neck tilted over like this? Liquefy. And then we've got the shoulder here. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I wouldn't say I'm a genius. Oh, I'm not a genius. I put my leg on. I put my leg on one leg at a time. I put my legs on one leg at a time, you guys. I'm just balancing out the shoulders. The figure is so stiff. The arms are super long. It looks like another example of a student who turned a study into a masterpiece. Light environment is non-existent. Super saturation. If it's a sunset, then you should have used more sunset colors. One half of this sky is just on fire. The painting's on fire with saturation. But this is a start towards fixing some of the issues you have here. What happens is, I know it's a study first because the head is always bigger. When the head is bigger, the student wasn't thinking about put my leg on one leg at a time. I put my legs on one sock at a time, guys. The reason why I know for sure that a student was doing this with as a study first is because what happened is that the whole painting, the canvas size was set up for the head study. See? Like, it was the perfect position. And everything else was added in later. They didn't sketch the body first. They finished the head first. It was added later to fit into the painting. That's why the head always feels too large. Because they were trying to fit in stuff they never planned beforehand, which looks right to them because they've been staring at this head for 4 days, almost a week, sometimes 2 weeks. All right, so if you had planned it, if you weren't thinking about the study first, the portrait wasn't your first thought, then you are, you know, preparing the shoulder width to the body, preparing the length of the torso. So these were studies. So please don't turn your studies into masterpieces. Trust me, we can tell. I can tell. If you want to really create a character in this kind of environment, contemplate it. Think about it. Why am I doing this? If you can answer the why, which is difficult to do, but if you can answer the why, that's the narrative, that's the writing aspect, then go ahead and plan away. But don't add a story later to an angle. I mean, it can work. It can look like it works, but it doesn't actually work. Alright, so I'm just waiting for the PNG to save. Spend time on studies before masterpieces, right? Absolutely. Then we have this piece, which is nice. It really feels like a dark room, but this is the reference they use from Portrait Studio, and I would encourage you to follow this exact same lighting scenario. The background is darker than the character. The character is lighter than the background. So you could have done something like this. The whole character themselves could have been a little bit more lighter. You didn't have to drown half her head in shadow. You could have shown us a little bit more information. But the radial climb in the breast area, the radial climb in the arms, the face, everything feels very, very realistic. It's emerging slowly from the shadow, so you're good there. But I don't think you should have this much black in a painting. There shouldn't be that much. Even in a nighttime scene, we're still, you know, cheating a little bit and showing a little bit of light. The perfect smile that you had was really, really uncanny. It didn't feel like a natural smile. Is this Daenerys? I can't tell. But I'm just going to raise the inner part of her eyebrows. If she's supposed to look evil, keep them low. But let me show you what the smile looked like before. It was like this. Oops. It was, oops, where are you? It was like that. Alright, this is not a smile. This is symbolic. Right? People don't smile like this. Unless they're like forcing it. So a smile grows horizontally. It doesn't really keep the lower part of the, you know, it stretches. The mouth is just stretching. It just grows horizontally, not vertically. It may seem like it grows vertically because it does a little bit, but the largest movement wouldn't be the vertical movement. It would be the horizontal movement outwards. So that's why I pushed this whole area back up. Expressions are a very big deal. I always like to spend time on my expressions. In fact, that's what my patrons and I are doing this month. Really, really looking at like the nuances between expressions and what that means on the face. And this is one of those nuances where a symbol would actually damage your understanding of an expression. She does not look like she's smiling before. Kind of looks like it doesn't look right. It doesn't feel right for the face. And after we got rid of that little vertical like discrepancy between the corners and the at the lowest point of the crest of the smile, and the smile just looks more simple. You can keep her eyebrows low if she's evil. The eyebrows are where evil is. A smile is a smile, eyes are eyes, a squint is a squint, but eyebrows are where all the evil is. Alright, so those are my biggest critiques. I can't go and repaint this whole painting because there's nothing to lasso. I'd be here all day. But I hope that helps you. Okay, so let's talk about color first because you have a gray background. I'm not sure why you went for red for the character, the skin and the color behind them. I know it looks cool to use that whole Japanese silhouette setup. But it looks cheesy now that everyone's used it, and I like the little textures you have on. Be careful they don't throw off the focal point. But you're kind of in between realistic and more like a symbolic, kind of abstract environment. So you're in between these two things, which means that your values should be a little bit more bold, which you got. You got a nice full bold head of hair, but you went full anime for the eyes, which is just this is where everything kind of fell off, and you used a gray. So you get away with this red on red. You get away with this weird urine color here. It's not even gold. It's nothing. It's just urine. This is not a color. If you want to add bold, if you were talking bold, why didn't you push it into this? All right. So remember, this is all design. So you can't go in there and detail the pupils if you didn't detail anything else. You can't detail the pupils. What's working here is the bold values that you use, which are great. But yeah, you went for bold colors everywhere except for the armor, which is detailed. And you could have done something a little bit more along the lines of, you could have made everything red. It doesn't matter. Make everything red. Give it whatever color you want. But you just can't go for that, like that urine-y color. You just can't go for that. Especially if it's such a subtle beigey color. You have to go for something else, something equally as bold. And bold meaning you're not using these tiny little details either. So this whole area, if it was one single color, let's make it one singular value. Just like that, that would have been enough. Do you see how nice that is? Now the only amount of detail is the face, and you can, again, put any color you want on that. So you want to put I don't know, I really don't see you using any other color other than black, which kind of completes it. I'll try to use this black. And then what we have after that is what you did with the eyes and the gaze. The gaze was cheesy because it was forcing the camera into a gaze. The eyes do much more when they're just looking away like that. You chose a profile view. Why are you forcing the gaze frontwards if you chose a profile? If you chose something from the front, why are you forcing us to see the eyes? It's cheesy like that. Look away from the camera, but look at the camera anyway. It's really bad photography. It's not always necessary the character looks directly at the camera. Sometimes looking away is so effective, so pretty. And you had such a nice little balance of realistic and unrealistic, and kind of like an attitude problem as well when she's looking away, and you kind of complete the character. She's like a tomboy, shaved her head, kind of like a warrior character, and she's just looking away. This looks a little bit like vampire-esque. I don't know, I would try to choose another color. I really don't know what the character's life story is, but anything like this. I also recommend a different skin tone color, a different backdrop color. So if you are going for reds, you can use the whole red versus green thing. I wouldn't recommend it. You can use some analogous colors. You can use something like that into the background. Really just, I don't know, what would I do? Turquoise is always really, really fresh. That's really fun. If you're going for a more abstract description of the character's role in their life, choose some colors that are specific to them. What are the colors they like to use? If she has to have that cream urine colored armor color, you can put it in, but just as a single value, and that's it. Istebrak, is it okay to outline the portrait and then paint it? I'm not sure what you mean, like to sketch out the portrait first? Yes, you can. Alright, so I'm just going to leave the background pure white. When you're at a loss, don't make the background gray. If it's supposed to be something like this, just make it white. Because at this point you really have no other choice if you don't have a role for the background color. Either the lightest value you have in there, but white, or the darkest value you have in there, darkest color you have in there, but black. Alright, so the gaze forward is really nice, and then that forward look with the green, it just looks a little bit forced, a little bit cheesy with that extra little bit of iris space and the milky eye. It's all a little bit cheesy. You can bring back the green in the eye, by all means do it, but just make it look forward and don't over detail it. Flatten. Okay. You can get that exact green you had. Make sure it's a nice bold value and just make her look forward, and that's all you need to do. Okay? The head is a little bit elongated. Deselect. So that's it for today. Any questions at all on the pieces we've looked at? Damn it, I always liked that color, and now that Ista called it urine. I'm so sorry. But I don't know what is so specifically important about that color. It's got gold beside it. You've got a pink gold, a rose gold that you could have used. You've got pure yellow. You've got green yellow that you could have used. But that color is basically a dark yellow, which basically looks like baby poop. You know, like toddler, like 4 months old poop, or like 2 weeks old baby poop color. It's literally a waste color. And there's so many other colors you could have used to describe the same kind of color, but you chose that one, which is the least representative of the iridescence and the glow and the metallic touch of golden cream colored armor. I mean, that wasn't even cream. You're in color. You didn't you didn't ask to write anything back. So let's recap then. So don't don't. Write that back to me. I'm joking. Make sure that your studies, if you intend on having a body, make sure that you experiment with the body first. So never turn your studies into masterpieces without planning the continuation, without planning without getting references, without planning where the body's going to be, without planning the gesture. So always make sure to plan if for some god-awful reason you want to turn your studies into a masterpiece. Your study is a current time capsule of, don't actually write it back. It's a time capsule of your current mistake making. So the person who drew this today will never make the mistake they made earlier, ever again. So why force yourself into that kind of situation? You could have detected all of these issues if it hadn't been a masterpiece, with the reference anyway. But you turned it into one anyway, so go ahead and try to complete it. Try to think about what it means to complete a canvas and plan. By all means, do whatever you want. Just remember that there are conditions. So planning, finding references, and the rule of thumb is don't try them until you have at least 5 full figure renders behind you. That's a lot. 5 full figure renders, that's like 4 months of work. It takes a long time to wrap your head around doing 5 complete figures, or 3 months of work for some people. Just make the mistakes before you have to make them on stage. Write that back to me. Make the mistakes off stage so you don't make the mistakes on stage. All right? Draw the gestures first. Experiment with the body. Plan your body movement first. Don't draw big heads. Don't use urine as a color inspiration. Alright, so that's it for today. Remember that the Portrait Studio sale is done. It will repeat again in the fall or sometime before the fall. The Boss Fight Challenge resource pack will be uploaded tonight on istebrak.com. If you want to join the community and just upload your stuff, you can go to istebrak.com, click on the little Google Plus icon to join. There you'll find everything that we're looking for, and you'll have a you just look at the wall and you'll be able to see the pin here at the top for the resource pack. I'll assign the description, the due date, and all of that. I might set up a poll if I want to, if I feel like you guys should have some sort of input on the type of boss in the boss fight. So the type of boss at this moment is more like a dragon type creature that is very insect-like. So we're combining dragon anatomy, fantasy anatomy, with insect anatomy. So you have a little bit of both fantasy and something you can actually reference in real life. It can be something more mechanical. But if you guys want, I can put up a poll so that you can choose what the kind of boss is that you're drawing. So it can be an insect type, it can be anything really, but I'll think about the poll. But as for the resource pack, as for the challenge, it's officially out. You can start drafting a little bit. Just remember, you don't know what kind of creatures you're looking at, so you can just think about cinematic angles, framing, and all of that. And as soon as I'm done the resource pack, I'll upload it, and you guys can get started. For those interested in Patreon, you can help support the channel if you're interested in joining challenges like this. If you want to see more, you can join as a watcher. Just as a watcher, my aim is 1,000 patrons. I don't know when that will ever happen, but it might happen one day. It's not that far off. Yeah, so that's it for today. Thank you everyone for joining. I will see you guys on Thursday the 5th. Bye guys.